The Pig family is made up of Peppa, George, their parents, and Evie, who recently became part of the family. But what if we told you that Peppa has another sister besides Evie?
What?
The evil twin. This is something that has been theorized since the very beginning of the show, as unbelievable as it may sound. The main reason this theory even exists comes from an old Peppa Pig poster released when the show had just started. The poster showed the Pig family standing together in front of their house, but there was something very strange that sharp-eyed fans noticed right away. In one of the windows, you could see Peppa. This makes no sense at all because Peppa was outside in the yard with her family, which means there were two Peppas in an official image of the show. One happily playing with her relatives and another watching them from inside the house as if she were forbidden to go outside, or as if she were spying on them without anyone noticing. One explanation fans came up with is that the Peppa in the window is actually her twin sister, which explains why they look exactly the same. This character has no official name, but for simplicity, we'll call her Penny Pig. Since she's being left out and secretly watching her family, many fans believe this twin is evil. After all, if she wasn't, why would the Pig family never mention Penny? Could the reason she is never brought up be because her family decided to pretend she never existed? Are you ready to discover the sad truth behind Peppa Pig and Evie's lost sister? So grab your popcorn and get comfy on the couch. Another Cinewave is starting. Illness. One possibility that could explain the entire situation in this image is the idea that Penny isn't necessarily evil, but sick. And not sick like having a cold, but suffering from an incurable health condition she has had since birth. So the reason we never actually see her in the show is because she would need to spend her days isolated in her own bedroom, without any contact with others. It wouldn't be surprising if the Pig family home had a secret room where this poor girl lives, especially considering their new house is very large, and shows that the Pig family may have always had more money than it seems. Penny's immune system may be extremely weak, so weak that she could pass away just from catching a simple cold. That would make isolation absolutely necessary. It's also possible that her condition could be very contagious, which would make keeping her separated from everyone even more important. Otherwise, the illness could spread to the entire family, or even the entire town. Parasitic twin. If the theories we've mentioned so far shocked you, that's because you haven't heard the darkest one yet. The one that says Peppa's evil twin could actually be Peppa herself. Sounds even weirder than Peppa having an evil twin, right? And that's already bizarre enough. But yes, things can always get darker. There are real medical cases where one twin absorbs the other inside the womb. So what if that's what happened with Peppa? She may have absorbed Penny, but her twin continued to exist as a second personality inside her. One thing that bothers many fans is that Peppa sometimes behaves very differently from her usual self, sometimes much more selfish and rude. In the quarrel, Peppa simply refused to accept defeat while playing with Susie and unfairly accused her of cheating, which led to their friendship temporarily ending. We know Peppa can be prideful, but to that extent, maybe the one in control that day was Penny. There's an even clearer example. In the episode Snow, when Peppa is playing with George, everything is going fine, until Peppa decides to make a giant snowball and throws it at her little brother, who gets completely crushed. It was obvious this was a bad idea, but Peppa did it anyway. The curious part? As soon as George starts crying, Peppa's expression changes and she apologizes. It seems like Peppa's kind personality took back control and was shocked at what Penny had done. Peppa probably doesn't even realize when she's being controlled by her evil twin, waking up confused afterward and wondering why she acted so cruelly. In this interpretation, that second Peppa in the poster isn't literally out there living independently. She represents the presence inside Peppa's mind, constantly watching, constantly waiting. Missing sister. Moving on to less extreme, but still very possible explanations, there's also the chance that Peppa's sister is still alive but went missing for some reason. She may have gotten lost on a trip and never found again. And even after all this time, the family never learned what happened to her. If this is true, the trauma could have been so heavy that the pig family chose to never mention her again, pretending Penny never existed. After all, they might have assumed she was harmed by someone or died in an accident. However, based on the promotional poster where Penny appears, she may have actually found her way back home, but chose not to reveal herself after realizing her family had forgotten her. The poor girl might not understand that they only hid her memory because of grief, believing instead that her family simply never cared about her. That's heartbreaking, isn't it? If you agree with us, comment below #Penny, older sister. Even though it's very possible that Penny is Peppa's twin, it also makes perfect sense that she could actually be Peppa's older sister, and the older sister of all the other little pigs in the pig family as well. It seems that none of the children remember her, and that would be easy to explain if Penny had been born several years before Peppa and then disappeared or passed away before the main character was born. Otherwise, it would be much harder for Mommy Pig and Daddy Pig to hide Penny's existence from Peppa. But if that really is the case, it's very sad to think that Peppa, George, and Evie never had the chance to meet Penny. Adopted by Dorothy. A more heartwarming theory involving Penny is the idea that she is actually living with one of her parents' relatives, specifically Aunt Dorothy. Yes, Mommy Pig's sister who lives in another country and barely appeared in the show. Dorothy truly received very little attention in the series, and we don't know anything about her life overseas, not even whether she has children. So Penny could very well have been living in her home all this time, since we have never seen her. Of course, there would need to be a reason why Penny is living with her aunt, and that would have to be explained in an episode focused on Dorothy and Penny. Maybe Peppa's sister was sent there to study at a prestigious school, which makes a lot of sense if Penny is older than the star of the show. Chloe Pig. We just talked about Penny living with Dorothy, but what if, actually, she has been living with Uncle Pig, Daddy Pig's brother? But before you say she would have shown up in the episodes focused on Uncle Pig's family, here's the twist. She did appear. We just know her as Chloe Pig, Peppa's cousin. Yes, Chloe has been called Peppa's cousin this whole time, but it's possible that this was simply a lie told by the adults in the family. Chloe is 10 years old, several years older than Peppa, so Peppa wouldn't remember her sister's birth because she herself wasn't born yet. Now, the reason why Chloe may have been raised by different parents is something we would still need to understand. But based on her age, we can imagine that Mommy Pig and Daddy Pig might not have been ready to be parents at the time she was born. And so, the solution was for Uncle Pig to adopt Chloe. Multiple siblings. It would already be tragic to discover that Peppa truly has a missing sister, but the truth could be much worse. She may have had dozens of siblings who disappeared or even passed away. And we're not theorizing this for no reason, but based on real pig biology, a female pig can have more than 10 babies in a single pregnancy, which makes it very curious that Mommy Pig only had Peppa, George, and Evie, unless those three are not actually her only children. In each pregnancy, she could have had several babies, but if so, where are they? Well, if they all vanished in that way, a depressing possibility arises. Mommy Pig may have a medical condition that causes complications every time she becomes pregnant. Complications that could cause most of her newborns to pass away during birth. Yeah, no one would imagine that Peppa, George, and Evie might actually be true survivors. The subscribe button is right there, waiting for you. How about clicking and keeping up with everything we post? Clone. What's funny is that there's a completely different version of this theory where instead of Penny actually being Mommy Pig's real daughter, she would actually be a clone of Peppa. Yes, a clone, created in a lab and everything. And again, the reason this sounds plausible comes from real life. Pigs are among the animals that are cloned the most in the real world. Yep, Science already knows how to clone animals, and there are pigs that are specifically created in laboratories for medical research and even transplant studies. This would be another explanation for why Penny is completely identical to Peppa. Sure, they could be twins, or one could be the clone of the other, a connection even stronger than being siblings. George's twin. When we think about a secret sister for Peppa, we always imagine that if she has a twin, it must be Peppa's twin. But what if, in reality, Penny is actually George's twin? She looks a lot like the main character of the show, but George would also look that way if he were a girl. And remember, fraternal twins can be of different genders, so it's totally possible that George was born alongside a twin sister who looks very similar to Peppa, especially because in the only image we have of this character, she is seen from far away. You can't even tell how tall she is from that distance, so Penny could very well be a smaller, younger version of Peppa. The fun doesn't stop here. There are 2 amazing videos waiting for you on the screen. Thanks for watching, and see you next time.